Sarah Ferguson's world shattered quietly behind the gates of Royal Lodge. Once the vibrant Duchess of York, she is now reduced to a figure of solitude, isolated in a fading royal estate, stripped of a symbolic sanctuary, and reeling from King Charles III's decision to sever her final ties to the monarchy. For over 30 years, Royal Lodge wasn't just a home. It was a last tether to royal identity. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. The emotional cost of losing it, the tears, the despair, the haunting silence inside a house once filled with status, reveals a steep psychological toll of this transition. What began as a political and institutional maneuver has left her grasping for personal stability in a life now defined by absence. This moment marks more than just a move. It's a definitive end to a version of royal life that once tolerated ambiguity and informal privilege. Sarah Ferguson's eviction signals a deliberate and calculated cleansing by the monarchy, one that strips away not only scandal but the remnants of unspoken entitlements. Her fall from semi-royal status into financial precarity reflects a monarchy no longer willing to shield figures tied to controversy, even if it means inflicting visible emotional damage. In her unraveling, we see the price of modernity paid in human terms. She didn't just lose a home. She lost a title, a legacy, and the last remnants of a royal life that once defined her. After more than 30 years inside Royal Lodge, Sarah Ferguson has been dealt the final blow, a definitive ruling from King Charles III to vacate the estate that had become her sanctuary. And now, the former Duchess of York is in tears, facing a reality that's both emotionally brutal and symbolically devastating. This isn't just about bricks and stone. This is the monarchy drawing a line. And Sarah, she's on the outside of it now. The decision came down hard. Royal Lodge, the sprawling Windsor estate that Sarah shared, unofficially, awkwardly, with her disgraced ex-husband Prince Andrew, is no longer theirs. It's not just an eviction. It's a full-blown erasure of a lifestyle, a status, and a place that, for Sarah, had long been a tether to a royal world she never truly left behind. It's the final chapter in a slow, painful unraveling. King Charles' verdict is crystal clear. The era of unchecked royal privilege is over. And Sarah Ferguson, once a high-profile member of the firm, is now a symbol of what that cleanup looks like in real time. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let's back up. For decades, Sarah existed in a strange gray zone, no longer married to Andrew, but still very much present in the royal landscape, living under the same roof at Royal Lodge, attending royal events here and there, occasionally popping up in the press with a new venture or a charity project. Not fully in, but not completely out. That awkward in-between space had become her normal. Until now. Because this time, there's no ambiguity. She's out. And the emotional toll? Devastating. According to those close to the situation, Sarah is overwhelmed, distressed, and deeply shaken. Royal Lodge wasn't just a home. It was a last stronghold. Her tie to the institution. Her sense of identity. Losing it means more than packing up furniture and portraits. It means letting go of a version of herself that was still clinging to the illusion of royal belonging. This verdict didn't come out of nowhere. It's been building for months, if not years. The royal family has made it clear they are done with lingering shadows from past. Scandal, extravagance, and blurred lines have no place in King Charles' vision for a modern monarchy. And that means saying goodbye to the relics of the old system, including Sarah and Andrew's longtime hold on Royal Lodge. Prince Andrew, of course, isn't coming out of this clean either. He's being relocated to a much smaller property on the Sandringham estate, a significant downgrade for someone who used to be known as Heir Miles Andy. But the focus here is Sarah, because while Andrew at least still holds a title, however tarnished, Sarah has nothing left. No official role, no royal safety net. Just a fractured relationship with her ex-husband, and a future that's looking increasingly... And let's talk about that relationship. It's not good. Sources say the dynamic between Sarah and Andrew has deteriorated throughout this process. While technically still cohabiting, they've grown more distant and divided. Andrew's alleged resistance to the eviction, dragging out negotiations, throwing up legal roadblocks, may have stalled the inevitable, but it didn't save the outcome. And it certainly didn't help the emotional strain on Sarah, who has reportedly become more isolated and despondent as the walls, figuratively and literally, close in. The psychological impact of all this can't be overstated. Sarah's entire adult life has been shaped by proximity to the royal machine, and Royal Lodge was more than a roof over her head. It was her last anchor, a 30-room symbol of status, legacy, and continuity. Losing that means stepping fully into a world where she's no longer protected by the crown, no longer buffered by history, and no longer part of the inner circle. She's not just leaving a house. She's leaving behind everything it represented, and what she's walking into. That's where things get even more grim. Financially, Sarah is in a vulnerable position. With no official royal income and no significant private fortune, she now has to navigate the next chapter without the privileges that once cushioned her fall. The Royal Lodge isn't exactly in sellable condition either. Extensive repairs are needed, and any compensation or financial support she might have received is minimal at best. There's no golden parachute here, just a hard landing. And while she's reportedly relying on staff for emotional support, the loneliness of her situation is stark. Restricted to limited spaces within the estate, surrounded by memories of a life that no longer exists. Watching her former partner distance himself emotionally and strategically. This isn't just a logistical transition. It's a slow motion. The delay in moving out hasn't helped either. The process has been bogged down by legal complications, logistical headaches, and Andrew's alleged reluctance to let go. And through all of it, Sarah's been stuck in limbo, waiting, dreading, watching the inevitable play out. It's hard not to feel that this drawn-out timeline has only prolonged the emotional toll. But beyond the personal devastation, there's a bigger story playing out here, one that speaks to the monarchy's transformation. This isn't just about Sarah. It's about the institution redefining itself. King Charles is making it very clear. The royal family is being reshaped around principles of accountability, transparency, and relevance. The days of quietly tolerating problematic figures within lavish estates are over. And that means legacy figures like Sarah Ferguson, however charming, however complicated, no longer have and for all the opulence and drama surrounding the Royal Lodge, the symbolism of its loss is just as powerful. A former duchess, once welcomed into the fold, now left to figure out her next move alone. The palace gates didn't just close behind her. They were locked, bolted, and politically justified. It's not just a PR move. It's a cultural reset. Sarah's eviction is a message to the public, to the press, to the institution itself, that the monarchy is no longer in the business of propping up the remnants of an old, scandal-soaked era, that titles, lineage, and nostalgia don't grant immunity, and that even those who once walked the palace halls are subject to the rules of reinvention. And in the middle of that message is a woman who's quietly falling apart. Sarah Ferguson's story is a case study in what happens when privilege runs out, when titles fade, relationships fracture, and institutions move on. Her tears aren't just about losing a home. They're about losing identity, security, and the illusion that proximity to power could somehow protect her forever. This isn't just the end of an address. It's the end of an era. And whether or not you followed every twist in Sarah's royal saga, this moment hits differently, because it's not just about scandal or consequence. It's about the human cost of institutional change. About how legacy can become liability, and how a palace, once your whole world, can become just another locked door. Let us know what you think about Sarah's final royal exit. Is this long overdue accountability, a harsh overcorrection, or just the inevitable fallout of a monarchy that's trying to stay relevant in the modern world? Hit that like button if you think this royal shakeup was a long time coming. Don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns of celebrity chaos and power moves gone wrong. Drop a comment with your thoughts. Are we watching justice or just drama? Either way, it's clear. The crown has spoken. And Sarah Ferguson is out. What makes this whole saga even more jarring is a contrast. For decades, Sarah Ferguson was a royal rebel who never quite left the building. She was never the perfectly polished duchess. She laughed too loudly, spoke too freely, and made tabloid headlines of the kind of antics a palace would rather forget. But somehow, she endured. Even after her 1996 divorce from Prince Andrew, she stuck around, living under the same roof, maintaining a strangely close relationship with her ex-husband, and sliding into a semi-permanent role as unofficial royal adjacent. It was unusual, and for a while, it worked, or at least it was tolerated. The press had written her off. The palace had moved on. And yet, there she was, quietly living at Royal Lodge, playing the part of supportive ex-wife, doting mother, occasional guest at royal events, and full-time occupant of an estate most divorced royals would never be allowed to sniff, let alone inhabit. But the new royal regime has made it very clear, toleration is over. The Windsors aren't cleaning house, they're tearing down the whole wing. And Sarah is one of the last loose ends being tied up. Royal Lodge was always more than just real estate. For Sarah, it was the last piece of an identity that she'd refused to let go of. It was a place where she raised her daughters, where she hosted quiet family events, where she waited out the press cycles and tried, again and again, to reinvent herself. A writer, a speaker, a media personality. Sometimes successful, sometimes not, but always with Royal Lodge in the background, like a reminder that she still had a place in the world of crowns and crests and courtly niceties. Now, that's gone. And the public response? It's been divided. Some people see this as a necessary, even overdue, purge. Others view it as a brutal exile. But no matter where you stand, the emotional fallout is hard to ignore. Sarah isn't just packing boxes. She's grieving. For her home, her history, her role. For the life she built around a title that was taken, a husband who was shamed, and an institution that no longer has room for either of them. And while Andrew is being shuffled off to a modest, by royal standards, home on the Sandringham estate, Sarah is being left to figure things out on her own. No title, no taxpayer funding, no official role, and most significantly, no palace backing her up. It's a lonely place to be. The reports of her emotional breakdown are heartbreaking. Staff say she's been relying on them just to get through the day, that she moves around the house like a ghost, that she's retreating further and further into isolation as a reality sets in. For someone whose entire adult life has been entangled with royal protocol, public image, and aristocratic identity, this isn't just a change of address. It's a total collapse of structure, meaning, and belonging. She isn't just losing a home. She's losing her sense of self. And the kicker? This all comes at a time when Sarah has been trying to rebrand. In the past few years, she's been more present in the media again, doing podcasts, interviews, launching creative projects, even earning some public sympathy during her breast cancer diagnosis. But none of that was enough to shield her from what's happening now. Because in the end, public goodwill can't compete with palace politics. And when the institution decides it's time for you to go, there's no soft landing, just a door closing behind you. It's also worth noting just how calculated this decision is from the palace side. King Charles is sending a message. He wants a monarchy to feel leaner, more modern, more in touch. And that means trimming off anything, or anyone, that evokes the era of indulgence, scandal, or unknown privilege. Sarah, Ferguson, for all her attempts at reinvention, is still deeply associated with those things. The toe-sucking tabloid scandals, the money troubles, the awkward memoirs and failed business ventures. Fair or not, she represents a version of royalty the current monarchy is desperate to distance itself. And let's not forget, this isn't just a matter of public perception. It's also about money. Royal Lodge needs serious repairs, the kind that come with jaw-dropping price tags. And neither Andrew nor Sarah is footing the bill. So from a financial standpoint, it makes sense to reclaim the property, redirect resources, and consolidate royal assets under tighter control. But again, the emotional toll is where this story hits hardest. Because Sarah isn't just losing a building. She's losing the one thing that made her feel like she still mattered in that world. She may not have had a title anymore, but she had a place. She had proximity. And proximity, in royal circles, is everything. Without it, you're just another tabloid footnote. Now, she's being forced to face what life looks like without that royal connection. She'll need to make money. Real money, not just from occasional interviews, but from sustained work. Maybe more books. Maybe more podcast deals. Maybe even reality TV. Because when the royal tap shuts off, the bills don't disappear. And that's a brutal irony. For someone who once dined with heads of state, she now has to hustle like the rest of us. And as for Prince Andrew, his own fall from grace has been so total, so catastrophic, that even his reduced living arrangements feel like a form of soft exile. But at least it's still technically Her Royal Highness, even if he doesn't use the style publicly. Sarah has none of that. She doesn't even have the comfort of a united front. Their relationship, already strained, has reportedly soured further under the pressure of this process. They are not a team. They are two people stuck in the same crumbling house, watching their royal past slip through their fingers. And this whole ordeal, the delays, the arguments, the resistance, it only underscores how emotionally attached Sarah was to this place. She didn't fight to stay because of comfort. She fought because it was all she had left of that world. Now that it's gone, she's starting over from scratch. But at 65 years old, with no title, no institutional support, and a media narrative that has already written her off more than once. It's bleak, and it's real. The monarchy, for its part, is trying to rebrand as sleek, responsible, and drama-free. But in doing so, it's leaving a trail of emotional wreckage behind. And Sarah Ferguson, loud, flawed, human Sarah, is one of the biggest casualties. She didn't play the game perfectly. She broke rules. She embarrassed the crown. But she also endured, and for a while, it seemed like that endurance might buy her a little grace. Now, the gates of Royal Lodge are closing behind her, probably for good. And the only thing left is a question. What does life look like when the fairy tale ends? Not with a scandal, but with a quiet, bureaucratic eviction? This isn't just a royal story. It's a human one. It's about what happens when the structures that shaped your life suddenly disappear. When identity, comfort, and history are stripped away, and you're left standing in the ruins of a role you didn't realize you still believed in. What's especially brutal about all this is that it didn't need to end this way. Not with the public tears, the whispered staff reports, and the media vultures circling for a soundbite. But that's the thing about institutions like the British monarchy. They don't do soft goodbyes. When they want someone gone, they don't hand you a tissue and a hug. They pull the rug out, quietly, formally, and without apology. And for Sarah, that silence is deafening. Because even though she's technically not part of the firm anymore, she's been loyal, almost absurdly so. She's defended the royals in interviews. She's kept up appearances. She's never gone full scorched earth the way others have. And yet here she is, facing the same fate as someone who would have publicly dragged the entire royal bloodline through the mud. Exiled, forgotten, cut out of the frame. It stings. This isn't a woman clinging to status out of vanity. It's someone who spent her entire adult life wrapped in the institution's velvet ropes, only to be told, decades later, that the party's over and the doors are locked. No ceremony, no send-off, just a quiet directive from the top, dressed up in legal language and royal logistics. Even worse, she's not walking into a prepared future. There's no elegant handoff, no support plan, no next chapter courtesy of the palace. All she's got now is the pressure to stay afloat. And make no mistake, the financial situation is precarious. This isn't a royal who can coast off a trust fund. Sarah's post-divorce finances have always been messy, business flops, mounting debts, controversial loans. For years, she relied on Andrew's support, whether directly or indirectly, through their bizarre cohabitation and shared household. But with Royal Lodge off the table and Andrew's own resources shrinking, that fallback has vanished. She now faces a harsh reality of building a completely independent life, emotionally and financially, without a single piece of the royal machinery left to hold her up. No property, no partnership, no public title, just her name, her baggage, and whatever media relevance she can still leverage. And the media? Oh, they're watching closely. Because say what you want about Sarah Ferguson, she's always made headlines. Sometimes for toe-curling scandals. Sometimes for endearing oversharing. But now, her name is back in bold print, not for a comeback, but for what many are calling a slow, undignified exit. She's becoming the poster child for what happens when royal privilege dries up. This is a side of monarchy people don't see during the carriage rides and balcony waves. The quiet cuts, the internal politics, the emotional casualties of institutional reform, while King Charles pushes a sleek, modern monarchy to win. Public favor, people like Sarah, flawed, messy, human, are collateral damage. She doesn't fit the vision anymore, so she's being erased quietly, and yet In a strange way, this is also the most relatable Sarah Ferguson has ever been. Stripped of the estate, the staff, the unspoken protection of the crown. She's just a woman in her 60s trying to figure out how to rebuild. She's making phone calls, leaning on her daughters, facing the humiliating reality of being evicted from the only stable home she's had in decades. There's something undeniably sad about it. But it also reveals just how brittle royal life really is, how the security it offers isn't real unless you're fully inside the institution. For those on the edge, like Sarah, it can disappear in an instant. And once it's gone, there's no coming back. There's no royal welfare, no golden parachute, just a locked gate and the cold knowledge that your time has expired. And for someone like Sarah, who has spent years walking the tightrope of semi-royalty, the fall is especially steep, because she never fully left, but she was never truly welcomed back either. She was always in limbo, tolerated but not embraced, allowed but not accepted. Now, she's not even tolerated. The era of Sarah Ferguson as a royal figure, unofficial or otherwise, is officially closed. What remains is a private citizen, a media personality, and a woman mourning the quiet end of a life she tried desperately to hold on to. So what's next? That's the question hanging in the air, and right now, even she may not know the answer. Will she write another book? Try to re-enter the media circuit? Launch a podcast? She's done all of that before, with mixed success. But this time, there's no royal shadow to hide behind, no prince down the hall, no estate to lend legitimacy. She's on her own, for real. And whatever she does next, it'll be watched, judged, and compared to the version of her that once stood next to the Queen, walked palace corridors, and waved from carriages. But that version, she's gone. Royal Lodge was the last piece of the illusion. And now that it's gone, all that's left is Sarah Ferguson, alone, grieving, and trying to find a footing outside the gates. Let us know what you think about all this. Did the monarchy go too far in cutting her off? Or was this just the price of staying too long at a table where the chairs had already been cleared? Click like if you've been following this royal reset and want more stories like this. Subscribe so you don't miss the next unraveling of royalty, fame, or fortune. And tell us in the comments, is this justice served, or just another example of the crown protecting its image at any cost? Because in the end, Sarah didn't just lose her home. She lost her place in the story.